Hello and welcome everyone to Red Planet Live. I am your host, Ashton Zeth, and I'm elated to be hosting the Mars Society's podcast and leading the conversation about human exploration of the universe and the future settlement of Mars. As a longtime space enthusiast, I am passionate about STEM education and making humanity an interplanetary species. Thank you everybody for joining today and supporting Red Planet Live. Going to kick off today's episode with one more announcement. We're getting close. The clock is ticking. We're checking off the days until the 2025 International Mars Society Convention, which is scheduled for October 9th through the 11th. We are now less than a month away. This is taking place at the University of Southern California in Los Angeles. This year, we're celebrating the 28th year, and the theme is Mars, the Time Has Come. And we will be focusing on Mars exploration, human settlement planning, and cutting-edge space technologies. So if you haven't already, go to that link right there, and then you can... There we go. I did it on the first time. You can register right there. And then as well, for those that are not going to be joining in person, you will be able to stream the program for the primary plenary speakers. You'll be able to see those sessions as well. But we would love to see you in person. So register at that link right there. And then to talk about conference and all things Mars Society, we have a friend of the podcast today, the Mars Society Executive Director, James Burk. So if you're unfamiliar, James Burk is a founding member of the Mars Society and has served as the Mars Society's Executive Director for the last, 3 or 4 years now? My note says 3, but I think that's outdated, overseeing all Mars Society programs and initiatives. James has previously served on multiple crews at MDRS, including as commander of Crew 261. In addition to leading Mars efforts, James is also co-founder of Space Northwest, an organization focused on strengthening and growing the space community in the Pacific Northwest and attracting new space projects and interest to the area. Lastly, James also leads the Mars VR virtual reality project and has led the Seattle chapter since 1998. James, thank you so much and welcome back to the podcast.
Always a pleasure to be with you, Ashton.
Happy to be chatting. I'm excited to hear about some exciting updates that we have regarding Mars Society, but we're going to kick off the conversation the way that we always do with question of the day. And I know, obviously, that with you, I think I could give you a little bit of a harder question than maybe I would give some other people. So I'm excited to hear your thoughts. But today's question of the day, again, no right or wrong answer, just your opinion. If a technology from science fiction like warp drive or artificial gravity became real, which do you think would have the greater impact on humanity?
Well, both of those would have tremendous impact. I mean, if we had artificial gravity, I'm just thinking we could train for Mars a lot better on Earth because we could ratchet down the gravity. But I think warp drive would have a bigger long-term impact on humanity. We'd really be able to explore our region of the Milky Way quickly and make some huge discoveries, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. And in your expertise, do you know, are we at all close to either of those?
You know, I'm interested in researching new technologies. I keep an eye on, the wire out there, and there are some really interesting plasma technologies. There's some interesting things with field dynamics. So I think there are going to be some breakthroughs in our future that we can all become aware of, and I hope to see things like that in our lifetime.
Yeah, very exciting. Well, like you said, there's some promising technologies out there, so maybe we'll start to see, some of those technologies and innovations from sci-fi start to become more real as we continue to invest in and research into these technologies. So very exciting. Want to remind everybody that as we're jumping into the conversation, if you have questions for James, please put those in the chat. I will be sure to sprinkle those in throughout the conversation. But let's dive in. I've got lots of questions and lots I want to know. I'm sure that you've got some exciting things to share with us. So let's just give a quick update on some of the field work that's been happening. I know there was a recent analog crew at Flashline, Mars Arctic Research Station on Devon Island this summer. Can you give any update on that? Was there any big achievements and what's planned for the year?
Yeah, it's really been a busy year for us. In addition to our normal activities at the Mars Desert Research Station in Utah, we've sent a crew for the 3rd year in a row up to Flashline. And this is an island the size of Ireland up in the Arctic Circle in Canada. And we had a 7-year hiatus where we weren't sending crews there. We could really only operate there in the summer because that's when there's sunlight all the time and it's warm enough to operate there. And so for the last 3 seasons, we've sent a crew and we've fully reactivated Flashline. You know, that's the first station we built in the year 2001.
Yeah.
And so, or maybe it was 2000. I start getting those confused sometimes
Oh,
now that
but
it's 2025. But you know, we've been there 3 years in a row now. We've had a very full set of the science work we've done. We've adhered to all the requirements of being up there, things like hauling away the trash and whatnot, making sure that we leave the environment pristine. And that is a really pristine environment for science. So one of the things that the crews researched this year was bioplastics, and there's going to be some research papers written about that soon. We had Terry Trevino was our overall mission planning lead, and we had 3 different crew segments this year. We numbered them to, crew 17 and 18, and then we also had a advanced team there, which was all engineers, and that got the other 2 crews ready. And so that's the most people we've sent in a field season, I believe, ever. So, and it just bodes well for that program because the station's in fantastic shape now. We've demonstrated we can do this mission every year now. And so this is a great opportunity for others to be part of the program in the future. We do plan to go back again next year. We'll most likely operate in July, just like we did this year. And so we'll plan a full set of science work and look for partners and institutional partners, sponsors of that mission, and you know, really get that going in earnest after the conference. So really excited about the progress for Flashline in the last 3 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And our friend Terry Trevino, you know, he's been on the podcast before. Yeah, always excited to see what he's working on, and yeah, we'll keep an eye out for you know, those papers that get published showcasing the research. But in addition to Flashline, I hear there is a new addition to the analog research community. Can you tell us a little bit about the Himalayan outpost, also called HOPE?
This is a very exciting new project that we're part of, and we just put out an announcement today about the first crew. This is a new station in India, in Kashmir, in a region called Ladakh, and it's a high altitude lake that is scientifically interesting that this station is located at. We are one of the key partners of the program, key financial and program management partners for this, along with the Australian chapter of the Mars Society. And the lead company is the lead tenant, I guess, of the station is Protoplanet, which is a new company out of Australia that we've been partners with now for several months. And this is just a fantastic opportunity for people that are interested in analogs to go to a station in the Himalayas now. There it is. And it resembles our science dome in a way. It's a full fidelity habitat, just like Flashline and MDRS. And we'll be operating that along with Protoplanet and the Mars Society Australia now. You can see our logos there on the habitat already. And so we're really excited about this because this allows, this gives an opportunity for our folks that work on mission support to have one more station that they can take part in, both supporting remotely but also being on a crew. And their field season will be similar to Flashline. It'll be around the summer. So we'll have an advanced crew going out there in April, and then a full science crew next June. And so we're working with Protoplanet and the Australian chapter on that project, and we'll be a long-term partner of theirs. And so one of the things they've asked us is to find mission support resources that can support this program remotely. And so we have a whole list of folks that just helped us with the Flashline crew and others that have helped us with MDRS, and they'll be part of this. So this is an opportunity for us to have kind of a 3-headed program, right? The MDRS, Flashline, and HOPE are now the 3 stations we can directly contribute to by planning for the science agenda, planning for upgrades, sharing institutional knowledge about how to run programs like this, and also share opportunities for volunteers across the three.
Mhm. So if somebody was interested in either participating in a crew mission there, or they wanted to support, like you said, mission support, how could they get involved?
We will be announcing how to do that in about a month or so. After the conference, we'll have some specific calls to action about both Flashline and Hope's next field seasons next summer. So just watch our Mars Society website and social media, and we'll have those calls to action in about a month.
Okay. All right. People are excited. I can feel it. Well, speaking of MDRS and analog facilities, the new season for MDRS is about to kick off. What's ahead for the year? What can people expect? Is there new crews coming? What's
Yes.
on the radar for MDRS?
It's really exciting this field season. Our first crew is the world's biggest analog. So that is a program where there's a group that has selected crews for all the analog stations around the world. So there's stations in Europe and Asia, Iceland, they're all part of this program. Even new stations that are being stood up in the Middle East and Africa that are going to be part of this program. And I believe there's around 20 to 30 total analog stations that all are going to have crews at the same time. And so our crew for WBA is made up of a really talented group of space professionals that we selected from a pool that was provided by the overall world's biggest analog program, and the commander of which is a longtime volunteer of ours out of our Toronto, Canada chapter. Her name's Rim Shade, and she's going to be leading the crew that is at MDRS. Right after our conference is when their mission is. It's a 2-week mission. There are a set of experiments that all of the analogs are going to be doing together. And then there's some that this crew will be bringing to MDRS as well. I just got off a call with our friend Eric Christoph from the EVA Link team, and he's working on an experiment for them to run. And we'll have some new work in the Green Hab as well that they may take part in, some new plant experiments and other activities in there. And another thing that's going to happen is our friends at the Biosphere down in Arizona have developed the SIMOC system, which is a way to monitor a habitat with software and monitor its air quality. And there's research in there that's has to do with life support and closed loop systems. It's really cool system because you pull up a graph and you can tell what the crew's doing just based on their CO2 usage. The team knows how to interpret the results that way. And so they've given us a sensor to install at MDRS that does that same type of monitoring of air quality and CO2 and other things. And so we're really excited to be part of that effort because it's a global technical experiment that's going to actually capture science data. So but that's just one of many experiments that are going to run as part of World's Biggest Analog. And that's just the first crew we have. We have crews again from Purdue, from University of Colorado Boulder, who every year has sent out several dozen people as part of their wilderness medicine program at University of Colorado Boulder. And they're a key partner of ours on the station. And so we're really excited they're going to participate again. I believe this year they have 3 different crew rotations. That's great. And then we also have several other crews that have applied or that we have formed out of individuals who applied. So we have a whole full field season this year that runs from October through May. And that'll be, I think, our 23rd field season. And we're into the crew 330s now of planning. So we've had over 315, 16 crews at this point, and 4 people have become astronauts from our program. So there's around like a 1 in 500 chance if you go through our program of becoming an astronaut based on real data, based on real performance of the program. And so, yeah, we're we're always really excited about MDRS, and the leadership role that we have in the community is really because of all the crews and all the work and all the science that's been done at MDRS. So really excited about that. We have our work party that we call the work party is happening right now in Utah, and so we're getting ready for that first WBA crew.
Yeah, I mean, you know it and I know it, but MDRS is known internationally as a leader in analog science and missions. So it's exciting to see it in its, would you say, 23rd, 24th?
23rd field season.
23rd field season. That's incredible. Yeah, so if anybody out there, hey, you've got dreams of being an astronaut, maybe you need to go on an MDRS mission first. But before we deviate to the next topic, I see that there's a couple questions about habitats and specifically one about HOPE here. So Ellen asks, are there new objectives for the HOPE analog given the high elevation?
That's a great question. I'm assuming she means science objectives, although there could be human factors and other operational learnings that we have because of that location it's in. And just the fact that working with, I didn't mention one of our partners on the Himalayan station is the Indian Space Agency, ISRO.
Yeah.
And so that's a new partnership for us. We're really eager to work with them. We've had a chapter in India, by the way, for several years that has run a rover competition, much like our university rover competition that we run in Utah every year. Their rover competition has had over 1,000 attendees and over 50 teams. They ran it for about a week because they had so many attendees. They had to get people through the procedures. And so those folks in India have been very active with the Mars Society. And so we hope that we can leverage some of those volunteers to support the Himalayan station. But also the partnership with ISRO is going to, I think, bear a lot of science goals and partnerships. I would say that there are definitely some geologic and astrobiology type research that could be done because it's in a pristine lake in a remote area, like the bodies of water at Devon Island that we look at for different reasons scientifically. Yeah. So I think some of that would translate, those type of research areas would translate well to the Himalayas. Also, the fact that it's high altitude, you could do some experiments about oxygen deprivation, I believe, hypoxia and things like that. I don't know fully how they're handling all of that. I think for the most part, mountaineers are used to acclimating to high altitude. So I would assume that's going to be part of the crew procedures getting out to the station. And so, there's, I think, definitely some research opportunities that are unique to that station because of just the fact that it's high altitude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think having an analog facility in that location is going to be a huge draw for so many. I mean, I can think of some of our chapter members, some of our Mars Society ambassadors that live on that side of the world that have been looking for an opportunity to go on an analog mission like what they can do at MDRS. So yeah, we're excited about that, and I can a few names pop in my mind. So I'm gonna have to send them a quick message. Hey, here's an opportunity. Don't miss out. Make sure to apply. Let's see. Another question here. Alexander asks if there are any comments on the application of robotics within habitat operations.
Yeah, I mean, we need to, overall, for us to live on Mars, we need to practice the art of automation. Mm-hmm. We need to have more systems that are very low touch for a human being, for a crew member. And so, for example, in the green hab, growing plants, we're talking about this right now, how can we put in not just a camera to look at all the plants, but individual cameras on each plant to monitor them and have software that actually can detect problems before a person can. Because then we can run that system year round when there's nobody there in the summer, things like that. We do use robots at the station. The individual crews will bring rovers and drones routinely. I remember my crew, which I was on RPL about right afterwards, we flew several drones. We actually tested a drone that was brand new, built for our mission, and we flew several commercial drones to capture footage and other things. It's not just for outreach footage, although the outreach footage we have is spectacular, but also for practicing flying a drone with gloves and a helmet on. Lose it. On my mission, I actually lost the drone, and we had to do an EVA to go get it. And we actually had fun locating where it was with a second drone, which we had done only a couple hours after the first one was lost. So that was, there's a lot of space in a Mars mission for robotics today, but this is an emerging field. This is an emerging field for manufacturing. It's an emerging field for a lot of, reduction of labor applications. And on Mars, we're going to have a labor shortage. The colonists on Mars are always going to be busy and have too much to do and not enough people, not enough time. So automation is going to be key. And the more things like that we can practice and develop on our own at the stations, then we're going to be in the driver's seat when we get to Mars.
Mm-hmm. Well, it makes me think about MTI and Mars Technology Institute and developing the different type of technologies that are eventually going to be needed for Mars. Can you give us an update on MTI? I know that it's going to come up at the conference, and I'm going to ask you about that next. But just give us a preview of what's coming and where we at today with MTI.
So backing up 2 years ago, Robert published his book, The New World on Mars, which in a lot of ways is like a sequel to Case for Mars, his first book about Mars from the 90s. And
I was trying to point, Case for Mars.
Yeah,
right there.
You got it right there. And so the New World on Mars talks about what's the economy going to be on Mars. It's going to be an inventor's economy. We're going to export inventions to Earth. We're going to export new knowledge, new processes, new data. And so why not start that now? Why not start that here on Earth now and help us fund a Mars mission privately? And so that was the original driver of forming the Mars Technology Institute. And so 2 years ago, roughly, we had a Kickstarter campaign, a crowdfunding campaign, where we raised $130,000 and to get this going. And so we've actually been at it. We have a team that's been meeting every week since then to do strategic planning and also to find partnerships and other entrepreneurs, principal investigators, scientists, people that want to help do this work. So people that want to help start companies that are going to form a business around a product or service that helps us settle Mars, but has direct commercial applications on Earth today. Something that fits within that 3-year investment window that everyone talks about. If you're starting a business today, usually you have to be earning a profit within 3 years, or you're not going to get any large capital investment. You have to have a business model that guarantees that. And usually they want to fund you because they want you to scale that up. They want you to have a proven business model working now. And so we're trying to work with teams to develop companies around ideas. And so we're about to announce several of these that we've been working with for almost 2 years in some cases. And some of these ideas are fantastic, or I believe are going to be fantastic businesses. And so we also at the Mars Society, we've been trying to build out what type of resources can we have for these types of companies? How can we help entrepreneurs form companies? How can we give them the tools they need to be successful? Whether that's helping them practice their pitch with us, giving them advice on the right materials they should have ready for investors, and then connecting them with angel and institutional investors. So we've, on a small scale, done a lot of that already, but what we're about to do is roll out some programs where we're going to publicly and formally offer to do that. And so at the conference, we're going to have several of these initial companies represented in a special track in one of the afternoons. and several of them will be unveiling their companies. But I'm going to have a session where I talk about the programs we're offering as well to other entrepreneurs to start companies like this. So that's really for the MTI. That's what we're trying to do right now. We don't have millions of dollars to go directly be an angel investor and directly fund pure research. So we're trying to do the next best thing, which is harness our community and help others do that, help others organize companies. And I'm really proud of the set of people that we're working with now that we're going to unveil at the conference.
Yeah. Okay. Well, something to look forward to. You know, when you're saying help these entrepreneurs, help them with their pitch or their product, their service. You know, and I'm thinking about MDRS, and so we were just talking about it. Is there potentially an opportunity for maybe, you know, we talked about robotics and robotic application. Is there like an opportunity for somebody that was trying to scale or test their technology could do something like that at MDRS?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, we have an MTI company already doing that, and it's Archipelago Space Research, and that's founded by folks from our Chicago chapter that work on the EVA Link project. And so we already have EVA Link in place at the station in MDRS. That team is also working to put it out into other stations and also developing new experiments that could be done with MDRS. And so, yes, absolutely. Our stations and the other programs that the Mars Society does can be a benefit of MTI partnerships. So if a company becomes one of our tier 1 or tier 2 partners and is able to sign a short agreement with us on that, then we can offer them things like, hey, come test your hardware at MDRS or Flashline or Hope. Have a crew come and use the station. If you only need it for like 3 days, we could probably accommodate that sometime when we don't already have a crew there. Also, just recruiting candidates from our community, like facilitating people finding opportunities at these companies is something we also want to do. I would love, recently 4,000 people got laid off from NASA. I would love for some of those people to end up in Mars Society programs as volunteers or working at some of these companies that we're about to help unveil.
Yeah, that would be an amazing opportunity to continue the research and involvement. And yeah, shout out to the EVA Link team. I did get to work with them a little bit. So yeah, great guys, and excited about what they're producing.
They were recently featured in Wired magazine about EVA Link. So
yeah. So if those that are listening, if you go on a crew, if you sign up and you want to be a crew member for MDRS, you'll get to utilize that technology while you're there. Check out the welcome video. You might see a familiar face again. I see we have another question. I want to make sure I get to these. Question is, once we have astronauts on Mars, how might that impact the demand of analog missions on Earth?
Well, I feel like what we have been doing is preparing to train people to be astronauts for Mars. So when there's astronauts actually on Mars, we're going to have a lot more interest in training to go to Mars than we currently do. So we're just going to be more successful and popular then, I feel like. That's why we need to kind of have multiple options, I think, have multiple stations, have multiple opportunities available for people year-round, because there's no lack of interest in going to Mars. And I've been at this, 28 years or so at the Mars Society. I can tell you, like, every year there's more interest in going to Mars. And I think that we're uniquely positioned to be part of that pipeline of people that are interested in becoming a Mars settler, not just going to Mars, but maybe going to stay, going to build a life someday. We want to be part of that pipeline that's helping those people prepare to do that, because that's what we advocate for. And so also just being an analog astronaut, I think, is just an amazing, unique skill and experience for people in other fields. When you're when you've been on an MDRS crew and you go work in a normal job in another industry, and you tell stories about that, it's always very interesting for other people to hear.
Yeah.
So, these are like leadership skills and communication skills that you're also picking up by being on a crew. Beyond
Teamwork,
just
problem solving.
teamwork, dealing with challenges,
Mhm.
problem
Yeah.
solving in a harsh environment.
Mhm.
These are all like, this work is not for everyone, but for the people it's for, it's exhilarating work. It can be the culmination of a career or something that drives you, that gets you up every day.
Mhm.
So, I think that's what being an analog astronaut is. It's like the capstone of everything else you've done
Mhm.
in whatever field you're in.
Mhm. We've
So,
seen, corporate crews go. I had an opportunity to interview a crew from the Aerospace Corporation, and it was making me think about what we see happening with, like Blue Origin, for example. There's their space tourists who are, want to become astronauts. They want to experience space, and so they're able to purchase their ticket and fly on a short mission. Is that something that the Mars Society would explore, like I want to live out my Mars Society dreams. I'm not necessarily like a researcher. I'm not a scientist, which obviously we told all the experiments and all the research that's happening. But is there an opportunity for those people that, hey, I'm not a researcher, I'm not a technical person, but I just want to go like pretend I'm on Mars and see what that
yes.
experience is like? Do we have that option?
Absolutely, we do. And we have had people of all types of skills at the station. We've had artists and residents. We've had people that believe they didn't have any skills to do this, but come and are the health and safety officer or the executive officer of the crew and do very well in those roles. So absolutely, like what we do is for everybody. And we'd love to have people grow into the roles that are out there for each crew. We do have prescribed duties
Mm-hmm.
typically on a crew, but
Yeah.
it's not a stretch to train somebody to do those if
Mm-hmm.
if they have no experience. So, and there's plenty of examples of folks creating their own role,
Mm-hmm.
such as I'm going to be the crew journalist, but I'm only going to paint while I'm there,
Mm-hmm.
or print things out on the 3D printer that
Yeah.
are artistic for me.
Mm-hmm.
We've had folks like that on crews, and so when you have 330 crews, there's all kinds of individuals within that set of people. So yeah, absolutely, we take everyone that pretty much that applies. We do want to overall, we do want to level up the science we do in general at the society. So we are trying to look for experiments and PIs that want to come in and design things, folks that want to form a crew around a science agenda, and
Mm-hmm.
certainly for Flashline and Hope, that would be the more primary focus of those missions because they cost a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but no, for MDRS, I mean, we've had all types of crews in the past, and so that program is for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's nice to see those individuals because as somebody who thinks, hey, I'm not a technical person, I'm not a scientist, maybe there's not a fit for me, but you know being on the podcast and getting to speak to some of the crews, it has been demonstrated that you don't have to be that person. I mean, I think of uh, Tim, what's Tim's last name? Gagnon, I think
Yeah,
the
Tim
gentleman who
Gagnon.
designed the mission patches. He's an artist, but he was able to join a crew, and I know that they were doing research, but to see his perspective and to see the artwork that he created from that experience was pretty incredible. So yeah, there's room for everybody.
Tim, and he was on an all-star crew too. I mean,
Mhm.
that was the crew that was featured on CNBC
Mhm.
recently. And yeah, Tim was fantastic as an artist in residence, and he's a patch designer. He's world class. He's designed patches for NASA missions as well. So we're lucky to have him in our community.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of MDRS and products, Angie asks, who should we contact if we want to test our product at MDRS?
Yeah, for Mars Technology Institute inquiries, like I'm leading our business development, so folks can reach out to me. But in terms of MDRS, if you are an existing company that just wanted to rent MDRS, we have that as an option. If you wanted to form a crew or send an individual crew member or an individual experiment, just contact us. We have, if you go on the MDRS website, there's some links to contact us, or you could just reach out to me.
Perfect. Okay. Well, we've kind of alluded to conference coming up. Some exciting things are going to be announced. So obviously, convention is happening October 9th to the 11th at USC LA. What can attendees expect this year? Can you give us a snippet of some of the people that are going to be speaking? What can we look forward to at conference this year?
This year, I'm really excited. There's a lot of great speakers. We're going to get an update from the Perseverance team. Abigail Freeman's going to speak. We're going to have updates from Rob Manning, the chief engineer of JPL. It's going to be our banquet speaker on Friday night, which is day 2 this year, as we're doing the banquet Friday night at USC, because there is a football game on Saturday night. So we're going to try to clear out of the campus by then. But we have a whole set of programs on our website for the agenda already. We have the competition for the Mars Against Hunger contest. The finalists for that will be presenting. We have a couple of teams from the high school summer competition that we just did, the STEM camp that we run every year. We've run that for 4 years now, by the way. We had over 100 students this past summer. This is a global competition that we run, and we have students form teams and design a Mars settlement, a Mars mission of one crew. That we give them an amount of payload. We tell them you're landing on Mars with, pick a number, 30 tons of gear. What are you going to do? Who are you going to bring? What's the agenda of what you're going to do while you're on Mars? What does your base look like? How are you going to keep everyone alive? So the students will design all that and then present it, and they'll have a competition between teams. Mm-hmm. And so, and a little debate. They'll actually critique each other and respond. Mm-hmm. So we've had really a lot of success with this program the last 4 years. We had one student go through the program, and he wrote his college essay and applied to Harvard, Yale, Princeton, and Stanford, got into all 4 and got full rides. And he ended up going to Stanford. Mm-hmm. This is just one kid, one student, but it shows that this is a really good activity, a really good summer activity for a high schooler to be part of. And so some of the teams for that will be presenting at the conference. We have our typical set of plenary talks in the mornings, and then track sessions in the afternoon, usually 4 rooms going at once in the afternoon. So we have tracks on technology, legal and political aspects of settling Mars, analog research. We have the MTI track one day. We have the competition for Mars Against Hunger another day. And then some other speakers we have, Bhavya Lal, who was on your podcast recently. She's going to talk. Vandy Verma, also from JPL, the rover expert, the rover driving expert that's spoken at our conference before. She'll be in person this year. So will Abigail Freeman, by the way. A lot of these JPL speakers, it's right down the road for them from Pasadena, so they're going to be in person. And Dex Hunter-Torre from Google, and Chris Zachney, Honeybee Robotics, Andrew Jones, who's a China space expert. He's a podcaster. He'll be there, I believe. And it's go check out our website. It's got the preliminary schedule. Looks like we have it in the chat there as well. But yeah, 3 days this year, action packed. And we haven't talked about it much yet, but the big political activity right now that we're working with the Planetary Society on is to save the NASA science program and the funding for the NASA science program. And so there's a day of action that the Planetary Society is organizing right before our conference. We're going to have a panel session about that at our conference with Casey Dreyer from the Planetary Society, also Dr. Jim Green, former NASA, and then I mentioned Rob Manning. So we're gonna represent also the current political activities that are happening with trying to save NASA, talk about the future of NASA, And I want to mention, I actually got to be on a couple meetings this year, early this year, when the new administration was first coming in, and they were having a transition meetings for NASA to prepare for, the new administration coming in. They asked me to be part of some of those meetings to represent the Mars Society. I was in a call with some of the other space organizations, and in those meetings, I was the only one that was advocating for a human Mars mission, and that's what ended up being the policy of the administration. I'm not going to take credit for that, obviously, because there were others like our former friend Elon Musk, who used to be part of the Mars Society, no longer is. I get that question all the time. Elon is not part of the society. We think Gwen's doing a great job over at SpaceX, and we want to see them succeed with Starship. And but anyway, we've kind of pivoted now from direct support of getting Jared Isaacman, for example, confirmed. Now we're trying to advocate for more funding for NASA Science Agenda. They also said that they would have an ombudsman for nonprofits at NASA headquarters. So we're looking forward to that promise being fulfilled.
Yeah.
And then just, like everyone else, I'm watching the news. I saw the announcement for the life on Mars discovery from Perseverance. Very exciting stuff.
Yeah. I was going to ask about that, kind of what your thoughts were. And I assumed you'd be very excited. But yeah.
Extremely excited. It looks like a great discovery. They did their homework before announcing it. They tried to disprove it in every possible way. Here's why it couldn't be life. No, it's not that. Here's another reason why it couldn't be life. No, it's not that. So they did all this homework up front to show that it's pretty credible. This is fossilized, activity from bacteria or microbes. So yeah, it's very exciting. I mean, I remember when the ALH meteorite was announced back in the 90s, and President Clinton had a press conference to announce that. And everyone was very excited at the time. And then it sort of tamped down, because people found alternative hypotheses for those 4 lines of evidence that they initially had for that discovery. So this one, I feel like they rolled out doing their homework.
Yeah, it's all
so I feel good about it. And I'll say, I've said it in other venues many times, the search for life on Mars could potentially be the biggest scientific discovery of our time. If we find, Robert has said this too, if we find evidence of life on Mars, even past life, that would be a tremendous discovery, because we could compare that with Earth life. We could see how things arose differently on the 2 planets. And so it could lead to breakthroughs in pharmaceuticals and our understanding of human physiology and all kinds of stuff that could benefit us on Earth, as well as it's a reason to go to Mars. It's a reason to send humans to Mars to look for life. And it's been on paper the top goal of the science community in the decadal survey to return a sample from Mars sample return, specifically because of the search for life on Mars. And so, yes, we need to do more. We have some partners. They're not part of MTI, but they're friends of ours that have the ALF experiment, the life detection experiment. I hope to see that mission fly, because that's the kind of science NASA should be doing that they haven't since the Viking mission in 1975. So, one of the reasons why they put Perseverance in Jezero Crater was to find evidence like this. But Perseverance and Curiosity don't have the right experiments on board to look for life in full fidelity. So, there's more that NASA needs to do for the search for life, and I hope this galvanizes things there.
So what's the latest on next steps regarding those samples? What's NASA doing now? And that ties into the, what you're talking about saving budget. How can those that are listening that help support the effort to save NASA budget, so we can find out more about those samples?
The thing that people can do right away is be part of what the Planetary Society is doing with their Day of Action in Washington, D.C. We need to educate Congress about the challenges with the sample return mission. There is no sample return mission on the books at NASA at the moment. Remember, at our conference last year, we had a whole panel from NASA about this.
Yep.
We invited all the people at NASA that were working on sample return to present their plan, and they didn't have a plan because they were doing a review of industry plans, and they hadn't announced the results yet. So after our conference last year, they did announce the results, but they haven't picked a team. They haven't funded the mission because, they're in a climate now of reducing NASA, not growing it on the science side. So it's kind of in limbo. There's no, I guess the national strategy right now is the commercial sector is going to do that, Mars sample return, but I don't really know. So hopefully we'll get some more guidance from NASA on that. But it remains the United States' top scientific objective for the last 2 decadal surveys. Those come out every 10 years. That's why they're called the decadal survey. It's been the top thing in there twice. And so it's mystifying to me why, they don't have that on the agenda. I mean, they had a Mars sample return program in the 90s. It was Pathfinder was a success. Then they were going to have the surveyor missions every opportunity. And then they were going to have Mars sample return in 2005. That was the plan circa 1999, was Mars sample return by '05.
And here we are.
Instead, they launched the Spirit and Opportunity rovers, and then they pivoted to do the larger rovers, Curiosity and Perseverance, which are like flagship missions like Galileo and Cassini, and James Webb, most recently James Webb Space Telescope. The kind of missions that NASA works on for like a decade, and they're like multi-billion dollars, right? That was not the approach we were promised in the 90s. The approach under Faster, Better, Cheaper with Mars was send small scout missions every opportunity. And so hopefully, if you watch some of the SpaceX webcasts, hopefully they're going to pick up the ball and start sending things every opportunity, which is every 22 months. And there's one coming up next year.
Yeah.
But right now, it's really just the telecommunications orbiter is the big flagship or the big Mars mission that's being designed right now, and that's being done commercially. So it's not really a JPL-driven science mission like all the other rovers have been.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, somebody knew you were going to mention it and asked the question. What are your thoughts on Blue Origin and Rocket Lab's announcement about communication efforts to Mars?
I applaud that. We need a communications infrastructure for Mars for all the missions that are being planned and for activities on the ground. What I'd love to see someone do is announce they're going to do a 10 to 15 ton Mars lander, because that's the biggest obstacle or technology that needs to be developed right now for humans to Mars, other than transportation, Starship, a lander. But landing cargo, I hope that SpaceX remains on track with Starship. It looks like they're going to do orbital refueling next year. And if folks on this call remember, back in 2020 at our conference, when I asked Elon, what's the timeline for humans to Mars, he said, watch for the orbital refueling milestone, because we're about 2 years after that. You'll see the first cargo mission to Mars. So some people think SpaceX is going to send Starships next year to Mars and during the opportunity, and they may, but it's more likely going to be 2028 for a cargo mission to Mars to set up a human mission the following opportunity.
Well, speaking of cargo, question from Carlos, who asks, what do you think about sending a lab to analyze samples in situ on Mars?
Absolutely, we should do that. That's what the Viking mission was, and there was the labeled release experiment on Viking, and the PI of that, Gil Levine, to his dying day swore that mission was that experiment was successful, that it detected life. It was controversial because at the time they didn't understand how perchlorates worked on Mars. And perchlorates, essentially, it's like pouring hydrogen peroxide on something, it oxidizes. The materials, the experiment, some people claim, was poorly designed because they didn't take into account perchlorates. But Gil Levine said no, like we put a medium on Mars that grows bacteria, and it grew bacteria. It expelled carbon dioxide. It had the expected results. To his dying day, that man swore that he found life on Mars, and he spoke at our conference in the past as well on this topic. So yes, they should send a follow-up for that. You know, it was in 1975. It's overdue now for a follow-up on that. So yeah, absolutely. They should. The Mars Science Laboratory, the Curiosity mission, should have had stuff like that, in my opinion. And it did. Perseverance at least went to a place, that could potentially have good samples for life. And so we're seeing that, but they don't have, Perseverance doesn't have the right equipment on board. So yes, I'm 100% for that. I don't understand why they're not doing that.
Yeah. It's a battle of priorities, it seems, and hopefully, here in the near future, there's going to be.
It's about priorities, but like everything else, there's politics inside, the halls of NASA.
Yeah.
There's folks on the planetary protection side that say things like, "Oh, we should never send people to Mars because we should keep it a pristine environment so that future generations can explore it with better instruments."
Yeah.
That's a real argument people make inside NASA. So it is a little bit of a political or opinion-driven thing. But I mean, we are firmly on the side of we need to go look for life on Mars. It's the biggest possible discovery we could make in our society right now. And it would drive all kinds of advances in other fields. And we should, that's the kind of thing NASA should be doing.
Yeah, the impact that it would have.
Whether it's robotic or human, we should be looking for life.
Yeah.
The best way to look for life is with humans, though. We've proven it. MDRS crew number 1, we found a dinosaur fossil in a place where a rover could never go. Robert always loves to tell that story.
Oh, yeah. I love that one. That one's good. And I think that was confirmation. We're in the right spot. The location we picked for MDRS, we're supposed to be here.
Oh, the location we picked for MDRS was world class, and that comes up a lot. It's like Robert recently was talking to James Cameron, the film director, and years ago James Cameron was going to do a project where he was going to film a Mars mission. Instead, he did the Avatar trilogy, but he was looking at Goblin Valley for that, and the film Galaxy Quest. If you ever watched that one from the 90s. They had scenes filmed in Goblin Valley, which is 10 minutes north of MDRS. So that's kind of, James Cameron claims that that's why we picked MDRS. There's other people in the Mars Society, like my friend Sean Plunkett, who's our Nevada chapter lead, that flew over a bunch of sites in the Southwest in that era and helped us find the site that would disagree with James Cameron. But yeah, that's why we're out there, is because it's a Mars analog. It's a place on Earth like Mars. And after 23 years, we can definitely say that it's a lot like Mars. And there's also lunar terrain there too.
So. Continues to prove it's the best spot for those missions. Let's see. Well, I've got just a couple other questions. So those that are listening, if you have other questions, put those in there while we have time. But thinking about conference coming up, wanted to make sure that I asked, sponsorship is always a big part of making the conventions happen. How can people support the conference, and where do we find that information?
Well, for individuals, please register and attend. And we have many people speaking that are folks that send in an abstract that we selected. We offer that every year. But for companies, we'd love for you to come advertise. We'd love for you to purchase a sponsorship, which gives you your logo on our printed materials, on our website. We'll have other placements throughout the event. And there's other benefits as well to purchasing a sponsorship. We have 4 levels now, gold, silver, bronze, and logo only. And so check it out. If you're a company that wants to be visible with our audience in LA, we're going to have the world's best scientists and enthusiasts and business folks that all are focused on Mars at our event. We do every year. Attendance is up this year, I can tell you. So It's going to be a great event, and we'd love for folks to be part of it by sponsoring us.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, check out those QR codes there. And let's see, I had one other note, something exciting that it was news to me when I found this out. But the Mars Society recently recently launched the Journal for Space Analog Research. Tell us what's the vision for the journal, and how do you see it contributing to the analog community?
So it's important in science to publish your work. If you do a research project and collect some data and discover something, publishing is what you're supposed to do in the academic world.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no one body of knowledge where we can point people to say, this is all the academic research or analog research that's been done by the Mars Society. We've had world-class scientists come through our stations. They typically publish elsewhere. And so what we're trying to do is build our own brand here, build our own journal that comes out regularly. We're partnering with individual universities right now to produce this journal. So our first issue is partnered with Purdue. Purdue has an existing journal called the Journal of Human Performance in Extreme Environments. They publish that regularly. They've done it for years. We're taking that over for one issue and making it a special Mars analog research, Moon and Mars analog research issue with Purdue. We're taking papers now for that. And our next one, we're working with another university, and we're hoping that we can do this quarterly or several times a year so that we can have a pipeline where people can come to our stations, be on a crew, do their science, do their research, come up with their breakthroughs, and then publish through us, through the journal. And this will also be ways for us to communicate science to a more mainstream audience. We are going to have other products than just the journal. We're going to also have articles that explain what's in the journal. So the journal might be a really technical article. For example, we might do an article about all of the advances that have been made up in Flashline by our engineers like Andy Greco, that has led our advanced team this most recent field season. So, that may be an article in the journal that, that other folks can benefit from in the community by reading his work. So that's one example, but we're hoping that by having partnerships with the universities, it reduces our costs. It builds connections with the universities. Purdue sends a crew every year as well, and that's a different department than what we're working with on the journal. So we have some sort of interdependencies across Purdue now, and folks that we're building connections with inside the university. And so we hope to do more of that. We're talking to folks like University of Florida, which is my alma mater. We're talking to Utah Tech, which is a university in St. George. We're talking to a few others. One's in the UK. And so we're excited about that project, and we hope that there's good things to come.
There's so many things that you're working on that the Mars Society is leading. I mean, we've got a new Hope Station, a journal, world's biggest analog is coming up. All these exciting things that the Mars Society is working on. I don't know how you have enough time to be involved in it all. But what else are you excited about? I mean, thinking about 2026 is around the corner. Can you believe it? What else are you excited about? What other things you got on the radar that you can share with us that you're excited?
I'm excited about how we're growing as an organization. We have new members and new chapters that are being stood up. We just stood up a chapter at Starbase in Texas, and the head of our chapter is part of a makerspace that a lot of people. It's almost like an Oregon kind of commune. It sounds like, where people live on site. They go to work at SpaceX during the day, and at night they live in a RV and they go outside and work on projects at this makerspace. So our chapter is part of that community, and they're also going to help us, I'm sure, in 2026 host some events around the Starship test flights. But we also have chapters in Arizona, in Phoenix, and at the ASU Thunderbird program. We have, every month it seems like we have a new chapter, and I want to give a shout out. I want to give a shout out to Ron. He's been doing a great job. So yeah,
Ron. We
Ron
love.
Story is our director of chapters.
Mhm. Yeah, Ron. Not only is he, great at growing those chapters, he's just a decent, amazing human as well. Really like Ron. So I know he's listening. So shout out to you, Ron. Well, we made it. I mean, there was a few questions I didn't get to, but I think we covered most of it. Anything else that's remaining, we'll have to try to touch base and get those questions answered at conference. James, thank you so much for being here. As always, it's a pleasure to chat with you. I always walk away excited and enthusiastic about what the Mars Society is doing. So thank you for being here and chatting with us today.
Thank you so much, Ashton. Thank you very much.
Look forward to it. Special shout out. Normally, I give James a thank you, so you're going to get two. Special shout out to our executive director, James Burk, our PR director, Michael Stoltz, our producer extraordinaire behind the scenes, Leah, and thank you everybody that tuned in today. Going to close out today like we always do, and this one I know is true because conference is coming up. The best is yet to come. Thanks everybody. We'll see you next month. Bye guys.
Thank you.